the worst space station in the galaxy. The station was called Helios Crossing, but nobody used the official name. Every pilot I knew called it the graveyard stop. It orbited a dying orange star in a forgotten sector where smugglers, bounty hunters, pirates, and desperate travelers all crossed paths. If you needed something illegal, Helios had it. If you needed safety, you came to the wrong place. I had landed there 3 days earlier with a cargo hauler full of mining equipment and absolutely no intention of getting involved in anyone else's problems. But problems have a way of finding you, especially when they come with glowing silver eyes and royal posture. The princess. Up close, she didn't look like any alien species I had seen before. Her skin shimmered faintly, like moonlit glass. Her long hair flowed in deep violet strands, and delicate markings glowed softly along her collarbone like living constellations. But it wasn't her appearance that told me she was royalty. It was the way she carried herself. Even terrified, she moved like someone raised to command armies. "My name is Princess Erin of Valeres," she said. "Jake," I replied. "Just Jake." She studied me carefully. "You are human. Last time I checked. And you are alone." "Also correct." She took a slow breath. "Then you are exactly the man I need." I sighed. That sentence had ruined my life more than once. "The problem," she explained quickly. Her homeworld, Valeres, had been attacked months earlier by a powerful interstellar faction called the Karth Dominion. The Dominion didn't conquer planets. They absorbed them. Governments, militaries, cultures, all swallowed into their empire. The Valerian royal family had been targeted first. "Most of my family is dead," Erin said quietly. Her voice didn't tremble, but her hands did. "I escaped with a small diplomatic vessel," she continued. "But the Dominion tracked me. My crew was killed. I barely reached the station." "And the drones?" I asked. "Dominion agents." "Of course they are." She nodded toward the corridor. "They're searching for Valerian royal traveling alone. And your brilliant plan is..." She met my eyes. "We leave together as husband and wife." I stared at her. "You realize that pretending to marry an alien princess while being hunted by a galactic empire is not on my schedule today. You would be compensated." "How compensated?" She leaned closer. "If I survive, I will owe you a royal life debt." Now that got my attention. A life debt from a ruling monarch wasn't just valuable. It was galaxy-changing. "Still, you're assuming we survive." Her expression hardened. "We will." The fake marriage. An hour later we stood before the station's automated civil registrar. The machine beeped as it scanned our identities. "Marriage contract registered," the robotic voice announced. "Union recognized under station law." Erin slipped her hand into mine. "Relax," she whispered. "Husbands and wives walk close." "I am relaxed. You are sweating." "That's because bounty drones are literally floating outside." Right on cue, 2 security drones glided past the registrar booth. Their scanners flashed across us. For a moment, I thought we were finished. Then they moved on. Erin squeezed my hand slightly. "It worked. Don't celebrate yet." We still had to reach my ship. The chase. Helios Crossing had thousands of docking corridors, cargo lifts, and maintenance tunnels. Normally, that would help us hide. But Dominion agents were everywhere now. We made it halfway to my docking bay before things went wrong. A metallic voice echoed through the corridor. "Valerian life signature detected." I froze. Erin whispered a word I definitely couldn't pronounce. Then alarms exploded across the station. Dominion soldiers poured into the corridor from both sides. "Run," I said. We ran. Blaster fire slammed into the walls behind us as we sprinted through the cargo decks. Aaron moved surprisingly fast for someone raised in palaces. "You've done this before?" I asked between breaths. "Unfortunately." A plasma bolt scorched past my ear. "Let's pick up the pace." The ship. My cargo ship wasn't glamorous. The Rust Sparrow looked like someone had welded spare parts together and hoped for the best. But she was fast. We dove inside the airlock just as Dominion troops reached the docking bay. "Seal it," I shouted. The hatch slammed shut. Blaster fire hammered the hull as I sprinted to the cockpit. Aaron dropped into the co-pilot seat beside me. "You can fly this thing?" "I built half of it." That does not answer my question. The engines roared to life. Dock clamps released. Dominion ships surged toward us through the station's outer bay.
"Hold on," I said.
"What are you doing?" "Something incredibly stupid." The escape. The Rust Sparrow blasted straight toward the station wall. Aaron grabbed the console. "Jake, that is a solid structure. Trust me." "Why?" "Because I really don't want to die." At the last second, I veered into a narrow maintenance tunnel barely wide enough for the ship. The Sparrow scraped along the walls as we shot through the station's inner framework. Behind us, Dominion fighters tried to follow. 2 of them smashed into the tunnel entrance. A third squeezed inside. Aaron looked back at the scanner. "They're still following." Not for long. The tunnel ended in a massive ventilation exhaust. I punched the thrusters. The Sparrow shot out of the station like a bullet. Dominion fighters exploded out behind us. Then we hit hyperspace. Silence filled the cockpit. Aaron slowly released the breath she had been holding. "We're alive." "Barely."
She turned to me.
"You kept your promise, husband." I laughed. Don't get used to that title. But something about the way she smiled made the joke land differently than I expected. The truth. 3 days later, we were deep in uncharted space. Dominion ships had stopped chasing us. For the first time since Helios crossing, things were quiet. Aaron stood by the observation window watching distant stars drift past. "You could drop me at the next safe world," she said suddenly. "Why would I do that?" "You've done enough." I leaned against the wall. "You said the Dominion wants Valeries." "Yes." "And you're the last royal." She nodded. "Then you're also the last chance your people have." She looked at me. "I cannot return alone." "Good thing you're not alone." Aaron tilted her head. "Jake, you agreed to help me escape." "I did." "You did not agree to start a war." I grinned. "Technically, I already started one when I stole their prisoner." For the first time since we met, the princess laughed. The unexpected problem. 2 weeks later, we reached a hidden Valerian refugee fleet. Hundreds of ships drifted together in the darkness between stars. The moment Aaron stepped aboard their flagship, soldiers dropped to one knee. "Your Majesty." I blinked. "Wait, Majesty?" She looked embarrassed. "There is something I did not mention." "Of course there is. My parents, the king and queen, were killed during the invasion." I slowly understood. "You're not just a princess."
"No."
The entire bridge crew bowed. "Empress Aaron of Valeries." I sighed. "So technically, I married the ruler of a civilization." "Yes." "Good to know." The court reaction. The Valerian Council was less amused. One of the advisors glared at me. "You expect us to believe this human is your husband?" Aaron spoke calmly. "Our union is recognized by interstellar law." Another counselor whispered, "This could strengthen alliances with humanity." A third muttered, "Or disgrace the royal line." The debate grew louder. Finally, Aaron raised her hand. The room fell silent. "I asked him to pretend," she said. "And he risked his life to save mine."
She turned to me.
But somewhere along the way, the lie stopped feeling like a lie. Every eye in the chamber turned toward me. No pressure. So, the old counselor asked slowly, "Human, what do you say?" I looked at Aaron, then at the fleet of refugees waiting for hope. "I say the Dominion picked the wrong empire to mess with." A few council members looked horrified, but others smiled. The ending. 6 months later, the war for Valeries began. But this time the Dominion wasn't chasing a lone princess. They were facing a united fleet. Valerian ships, human volunteers, rebel worlds that had suffered under Dominion rule. And leading them all, an empress and her very accidental husband. The final battle raged above the oceans of Valeries. Dominion warships burned in the atmosphere. Valerian fighters swarmed like silver lightning. And at the center of it all, the rust sparrow darted between battleships like a stubborn insect that refused to die. When the Dominion flagship finally exploded, the war ended in a blaze of white fire. Hours later, the fleet drifted above the liberated world. Erin stood beside me in the observation deck. "It's over," she whispered. "Yeah. You saved my people." I shrugged. "You saved me first." She smiled softly. "You know, technically we are still married." Technically. The stars reflected in her glowing eyes. "So, what happens now, Jake?" I looked down at the beautiful alien ruler who had once asked me for a fake marriage just to survive. Then I smiled. "Well, Your Majesty, I think we should make it real." And somewhere out in the quiet galaxy beyond Valeries, the rust sparrow waited for its next impossible adventure.